Hello, it's I guess this was an unexpected episode of the One Star Cowboys podcast. We weren't going to do this. We were going to go off to bye week and be on our merry way, but Jerry's agitated, and he did an interview with our with 105.3 The Fan, Sean Sharif, RJ Choppy, and Bobby Belt. Even though Bobby's name is not on the show, Bobby Belt definitely asking some questions, so I want to make sure he gets his proper credit there. And Jerry does a two shows a week over on the Fan, which is the flagship station of the Cowboys. I worked over there for 6 years, and he goes on for his Tuesday morning show, and it got explosive. Then, as you'll see, maybe on the Athletic, you checked out Jon's piece with Dianna Russini. Jerry had more comments at a league function, which that's where I think we'll just start off before we get into what happened. So, Jon, how did you contribute to this with Dianna Russini? I mean, how were you involved? What actually was the meeting? And let's kind of work in reverse. Like, what happened there?
Yeah, so I was actually on a phone call with a friend of mine, and Diana reached out to me, and she's like, "I just talked to Jerry briefly, but she had another. She's at the owners' meetings that were in Atlanta, and so she's there, and so she's got things scheduled, meeting with other people. I've been to several owners' meetings. They have one of the annual ones here in the Fort Worth area, and when these meetings end, it's a lot going on because there's a lot of owners and people leaving and going to their cars and things like that. And you're trying to knock out as much stuff as possible. If you're a national reporter like Diana is, if it's me, I mean, I just go to spots where I stake out Jerry. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about. I mean, just take yesterday as an example. You have the Devontae Adams trade. Um, and then you have the because of that, Woody Johnson's there from the Jets, but then so is Mark Davis from the Raiders. So this is your chance to, and then Tom Brady gets in on the ownership stake with the Raiders. So it's like when they're being made available, and there's a lot going on. So Diana's like, hey, I got Jerry real quick. If you can write this up, this would be great or whatever. And so like I literally like I saw that in my text, and I told my buddy, I'm like, I gotta call you back, man. I gotta do something real quick. And so I'm not knowing at that point what the audio is gonna be. I don't know that if it's just like, hey, I've just asked Jerry about trade deadline, Mike McCarthy's jobs, whatever. Well, she asked right off the top about, the interview with Sean, RJ, and Bobby. And when I'm listening to this, like I wish there had been a camera on me because like my eyes were like getting wide when I was just like, oh wow, like because I went into this thing thinking, oh okay, what's my headline going to be? I'll probably write something about. You should probably ask him about McCarthy trade deadlines coming up. Obviously, a lot of trades going on. But when he had that response to that, I'm like, I'm leading it. This is the most interesting thing because he's doubling down on this, and this is so unlike Jerry to do. That's the part. All of this has surprised me because Jerry has always been great about allowing media no matter if you work for the team website, local radio stations, or print like myself, to really, he has got the thickest skin of anybody in pro sports. So I was stunned in the morning, thought that was a Jerry, I'm going to go into this thing and show the fans how frustrated I am that you guys aren't alone. I'm just as mad as you are about this embarrassing loss and us going into the bye week this way. But then after, I mean, he had plenty of time. I mean, he did that interview with Sean, RJ, and Bobby in the morning, right before he was boarding his flight to go to Atlanta. So he gets to Atlanta, goes to meetings, and then comes out of the meeting. That's when Diana got him right as he was getting into his vehicle to leave. And so he was still hot about this. And it stunned me because take away team flagship station, which those guys' salaries aren't paid directly by Jerry Jones, but take that out of it. Let's just go back to
Mm-hmm.
people that their salaries are. That's DallasCowboys.com. I'm telling you this right now. This isn't just from me having friends on the website. This is from me reading other teams' websites, NFL, other leagues, and such. The DallasCowboys.com is as critical as you can get for a team website. Like they are allowed, like that is one of the things that they push out. There are so many topics that they write about that other team websites would never even touch. And so there's just so many levels to where I'm just kind of like, I can't believe Jerry would say that. It's just disappointing to me because obviously I haven't covered any Super Bowls covering the Cowboys for the last 14 years. So very high on my list, might even be number one, is the access we get to the owner and general manager who is very fair and is open to criticism. I mean, there's so many things that he's been criticized for. He's also the type of guy that, let's just be honest, he will talk to you about kneeling Colin Kaepernick stuff to, he'll answer questions about paternity lawsuits and other things off the field that most owners, general managers will immediately say no comment or will just end the interview right there when you're asked about. There's really nothing and then you factor all that in with like their questioning. It was nothing that was super aggressive. It was basic questions that people want to know what's going on. And so I'm stunned. Like, I mean, if this whole thing is his play to take heat off McCarthy and get it all on him during a bye week, man, he has really succeeded because him doubling down with Dianna really, really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we met with coordinators and stuff at the Star, and as soon as I walked in, I told John, I was like, yeah, this thing is all kind of phony. Like, this is him just trying to go in, ruffle some feathers and just make sure everyone's talking about the Cowboys during the bye week, and that's what I thought until I saw what he told Dianna, and that did change my mind as well because. Look, I've been around Jerry for 10 years now, 9+ years since 2015. I've been with him when he was asked about the Kaepernick thing. I've been with him when he was asked about paternity lawsuits. I've been with him when he was asked about the Arkansas picture. Like all of those things and like the way that he talks and the way that he's answered those questions, like this is also what kind of amuses me about what people on Twitter or some Cowboys fans, they talk about like, oh, you're scared of Jerry about revoking. Like as a young reporter, I'm 29 years old. I've been around him since I was 20. He is probably the most famous, highest stature person I've ever covered. And he's also probably the least person that I'm ever nervous about asking a question. I asked him right off the bat after the game the other day about if you're evaluating the head coaching position. Like, I would like it doesn't even really faze me because, as John said, like he's just so open to those things. And KT, you can definitely appreciate this. I work at the Ticket. Have worked at ESPN. I've been in radio for 10 years almost now, and you for forever as well. He doesn't pay those people salaries. Like it's actually the opposite. They pay the Cowboys. So that's also amusing. I understand that he thinks he has like some like say so in that, but the whole thing about him paying salaries is just blatantly inaccurate. But yeah, to be honest, like I did change my tune. I had a I don't know if he would want his name out there, but I had a reporter reach out to me this morning and kind of like, we were chatting about this. He was like, yeah, I don't really think this whole thing was an act. And I was like, I thought it was until he talked to Dianna. And I was like, now I really think this was just some like he got lost in some narcissism there, to be honest. Like that's what that's what it feels like.
I'll be very surprised if he doesn't apologize, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think that will eventually happen. But I will be very surprised if
probably
there
on Friday.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different show, though. So that's the only thing. Yeah. That doesn't hold the same weight. Like I listened today, this morning, just because I thought there was a chance he'd call in because he has done that in the past.
Now, I know, John, you've tracked every, and you probably do too, so like you guys track pretty much every interview Jerry does. I know for me, I don't too much. I also worked at that station and edited every Jerry Jones interview for 7 years straight. And that's a beating, getting those down into sizable clips to play on the radio. So I was not, but when I saw the internet going on, I pulled up YouTube real quick and watched it. And I immediately went, okay, yeah, he's feisty. But I never for a second thought he was actually talking about Sean, RJ, and Bobby's job. I thought he meant, well, I'll just go do the midday show or the afternoon show, or I can hang out with my old buddy Chris Arnold or something. Like that's immediately what I thought. But man, and by the way, the Scoop City podcast will be talking about this over on The Athletic. So go check that out. If you want to hear the audio, we're going to have that. I do want to read from the piece, though. John, you wrote this and Dianna got this to you. I do want to read this just for our audience here. I don't know that I would go as far as calling the volume as yelling, but the facts are that if I'm going to be grilled by the tribunal, how do you
tribunal?
Say that? Tribunal. Yeah. I don't need it to be by the guys I'm paying. I can take it from fans and take it from other people. I take a lot of pride in how far and how much I try to work with the media. We're brothers and sisters, but I was a little frustrated there today. The wrong ones were doing the questioning. Now, if those had been real fans sitting there, or if there had been people that knew what they were talking about, football people, I might have had a different answer. That is where, to me,
that's messed up.
I'm wondering if there's something under the surface there. I know that they went at him a little bit fairly after the Baltimore game, the second straight home blowout. And I'll be honest, man, I thought the questions for that were even more severe than yesterday. Now, one thing that I did cross my mind, and maybe I'm giving an 82-year-old man a little too much credit, but one thing I was going is like, man, he is pretty media savvy. He might have just been twisting off on him early because he knew the questions were going to escalate, because they hadn't got to the hard questions yet. They hadn't got to questions about why is the sun shining again and all that stuff that he's answered before. And even more like questions. They didn't even get there because he twisted off on him so fast. And that just made me wonder what he said last night with Dianna in the piece that you wrote, John. I kind of went, okay, is he mad at one of those guys specifically? And we all know those guys. I talked to
but
Bobby
even if he is, that doesn't make any sense, because if you would bring up the fan thing or anything, like the thing they were talking about in that moment was about the not doing more in the offseason. We all know that. It's a major topic that they didn't do anything outside of signing Eric Kendricks and then bringing in a new draft class, which all 32 teams get to do. They didn't really do anything substantial to improve their roster. And in that interview on 105.3 The Fan, Jerry, you can tell, is pushing back with the whole, well, I signed Dak, I signed CD. So when he says that, and don't get me wrong, I will say, and I'm about to do something that I have not heard anybody do in the last 24 hours. I'm going to somewhat stick up for Jerry on that. It is completely dismissed that he does sign Dak and CD. And I do get a feeling that people think that's funny money. Those are significant investments. Yeah. We can do lists right here. The highest paid players in the NFL. Dak Prescott 1, Justin Jefferson 2, CeeDee Lamb 3. You have 2 of the top 3 highest paid. I get it that they're not playing that level, and you probably don't think of them on that level, but he did make those moves. That's fair. He deserves credit for getting those done. I understand people saying, hey, you could have got it done earlier and maybe you saved money there. They probably would have, but I don't think it would have been major significant money, just judging by who Dak's agent is. There was no, you could have got this done last year and Dak would have been here for 45. No, that's not how that would have been. Like, I think the difference is maybe instead of being 60, he's at 55. So it's 5 million, but hey, 5 million is 5 million. Anyway, I'm done sticking up for Jerry now for this portion of the show. The part, though, that blows me away is, like, you don't think every fan's going to ask you about that? Like, he got frustrated, you could tell, when he was getting follow-ups a couple weeks ago about the Derrick Henry thing after he ran all over them, where it's like, that's not some huge signing, like, where they were like, man, you were going to have to move heaven and earth to try and get this Derrick Henry deal done. And so he was already getting defensive about things like that. But to say, like, well, I'd be different if the fans were asking, to be honest with you, if fans were asking in person, I think it would be fine and it would be cordial. Everybody gets tough, though, when you're just on a phone. No one can see you. I mean, doing radio, doing podcasts, it's way easier to talk than it is when you're face to face. Jerry takes a radio call-in show. First of all, you're going to have to be on that dump button, because I'm not saying everybody's going to be like this, but there's going to be some stuff that's pretty vulgar that they're going to ask these type of questions or point these things out in a way that's not even close to being as well as Sean was presenting it. So to saying that I would take it differently from fans, no, you wouldn't. And maybe he thinks that because 14 years of being around him, I've never seen, not 5, not 3, not 2. No, I haven't seen one negative interaction with Jerry and fans, and that includes on the road in Philadelphia. Never. When people see him, it's asking for autographs, it's chanting his name and stuff like that. So there is a difference, like, where he might not really get the sense of how bad it is. I mean, we can go back. I mean, the ultimate call, obviously, that people always go back to is that one when he was taking calls on the ticket, and he pointed the caller, told him about when you're going to finally hire a football man, and that's when he said the infamous line of, "Did you like those 3 Super Bowls? I hope you did. I hope you did very much." So if you take it to call in like that, you're going to get at least 1 or 2 callers. That's going to be way worse than it was with the questions that the radio station was asking him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and real quick, the one thing I will push back a little bit on, John, with what you said is, I think I don't mind giving Jerry credit for the signings, but to me, you had to do one of 2 things. You either had to sign them early for the money that you did, or you sign them late and get a discount. Because because what he did was kind of the worst case of both, because if you sign him early, this 22 million that you have in cap space, I know they haven't shown that they would do anything in free agency in the past, and I get that, but you at least have the availability of this 22 million to then go, because that's all we heard in free agency was, well, we got to sign Dak and CD. We got to sign Dak and CD. If you get that done, maybe now you're looking at your cap space in a different way, as opposed to just projecting of what you're going to have available. So for me, I think you either had to get them done early for the market value, which I think was going to happen no matter what, market value. I don't think they were going to get a discount no matter what. Or if you were going to wait as long as he did, you had to get a discount. You had to like find a way to not get taken to the whatever by Todd France and get highest paid quarterback, no trade clause, no franchise tag, all that stuff. Like, you lost on all counts. So for me, like, I don't really give Jerry that much credit for any of that.
No. There's gray area here. This is not a black and white thing. I agree with you on a lot of that. I'm saying that we can't treat it as it did nothing. Take the Cowboys out of it. We'll pretend like it's another team. If you sign two people that are the top three highest, you cannot use argument did nothing. That's the part where I'm at. There's a gray area of like where we're at. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. 100%. That thing should have been done with Dak right before free agency started, so you could make other moves. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that it's to the level of like people when they say he's an idiot. You know, I push back on the other episode where it's like, you can't say that this guy that is as wealthy and has much success that he's brought on himself. Obviously, he started at a good spot. He came from, his father had some money. It's not like he, whatever. He wasn't. He didn't completely 100% get it out of the mud. Okay, we get that. But he has made a lot of he is not just for the Cowboys, the NFL. So that's why I push back a little bit when people are like, this guy's an idiot. Nah, he's really not an idiot. So I understand you're frustrated with him, and he doesn't do a good job of being the general manager of the football team. But we're not going to go all the way to the bottom and saying he's an idiot, okay? The thing I'm saying is that the way I feel like I'm hearing it from some fans is almost like, Dak isn't signed right now. CD isn't signed right now. He's just not doing anything. He's just rolling it out there and just being like, I don't know, we'll figure it out in the offseason. We're just going to run this back with Mike McCarthy. Because there was a time when he was saying all in over and over and over and over again in January and February, where I thought that was a possibility, that he might let this whole thing roll. And I was like, damn, that's going to be wild. Because can you imagine? CD's still here if that happens. Dak is still here if he doesn't do anything with the contract. Can you imagine if things are as bad as they are right now and those contracts aren't done? Heck, some people might think that's a good thing.
What you're saying, I hear you, and I agree. Like, to say they did nothing is unfair, but I think that is what he did is only one notch above that, because you're looking at it. You didn't have any cap space. Now Dak and CD aren't in the same page. Like, the way that he handled the contract situation was about as bad as you can handle it with it still getting done. The only thing worse would be it not getting done. But the way he handled it, couldn't use your cap space in free agency. Your star quarterback and receiver can't get on the same page 6 weeks into the season. Like, I mean, I agree with you on that. That, like, it's not that he's not doing anything, but man,
and I don't want to come off and saying he's doing a good job either. He's done a poor job. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that there are levels to this. We are not going to act like this is 0-16 Lions, Matt Millen. I've lived through that. We're not going to go there. This team is 3-3. They're not good. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They're bad, but we're not going to act like this is like the worst thing that we've ever seen.
To fans, just keeping to Dak and CeeDee Lamb though is like formality. It doesn't feel like a new thing, right? Because everyone keeps their number one wide receiver and quarterback pretty much. So like, doesn't even feel like some special thing to a lot of fans. And I agree with you though. Like, yeah, he did do it, and that's part of Jerry's thing. Is
part
like,
of him's probably
talk
pissed
about the
off
things
that
I
he
have
did.
done.
And and it's also part of him's probably pissed off that he did that, and those two players aren't playing like that. You know, he's probably not that happy with those two individuals either, though.
Let's go over to Kent Garrison, trusted producer.
Yeah, my reaction to this is the one thing that can solve all this for Jerry is hire a general manager. He doesn't seem to want to do that. I'm confused as why he doesn't want to do that at this stage in the game. If the narrative is out there from the fans, which I've seen a lot of, is, oh, Jerry only cares about the money, though, at the end of the day, he would just be the owner if that was the case. He would be the owner. He would take the money, get the check, do the appearances, shake the hands, kiss the babies, do the whole thing, be the face of the team. But when the team loses 47-9, the general manager be the one that taking the beating. He wants the credit, which is why he's the general manager. But if he really does, and I don't believe he only wants the money, I honestly believe he would trade the Airbus helicopter. He would trade the Bravo Eugenia yacht for a Super Bowl if he could. I honestly 100% believe that. Go ahead, John. I know you're trying to chime in.
I believe he would too, if it's set up in the current structure. To answer your first part, the reason why he won't give up GM is because he only wants them to win when he gets the credit. That's why, as we're leaving the stadium Sunday night, I said to Saad, that's why I don't think Bill Belichick is a play here. Because if Bill gets it right, Bill gets all the credit. And Jerry doesn't want to win that way. Jerry wants to win with him being the GM, with him getting the credit. That's why he's gone with McCarthy and Jason Garrett. That's why it didn't work out with Parcells. That's why it didn't work out with Jimmy. Those people factor in that he won't get the credit. If he wins with Mike McCarthy or Jason Garrett, Jerry picked those guys. Jerry will get pointed to as he's the reason that they did that. He wants the credit for it. That's why
Jerry
it's going to
would
remain
pick
this
the
way.
GM. I don't understand where he gets yelled at if they win a Super Bowl. Because
but hold on.
Does that make sense?
What would get the credit? What would get the credit if they won the Super Bowl? Not these 28 years when he's been in charge. The credit would go to that GM. Yes, Jerry would get some credit. Like, hey, you finally. We'll say we're just going to throw a name. We'll say Kevin KT Turner is the GM. Jerry finally hires KT at the start of next season. They win a Super Bowl in 2 years. You think Jerry's getting as much credit? KT is getting a ton of it because people are like, finally, they brought in somebody that knows football. Look at KT, fix this, fix that, blah, 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 blah. Like, Jerry is still going to get credit, obviously, because he finally did that, but nowhere near as much as he wants.
Yeah,
right.
To my point about him selling the helicopter, though, he has to know that success will come with a Super Bowl. So by any means necessary, you should be trying to get that Super Bowl. If it means bringing in the GM and in 2 years you don't get the credit, well, who cares? You got the Super Bowl and you're going to live off that for the next 30 years like you've done for the last 3, you know?
Right, but what you're saying guarantees you a Super Bowl. There are no guarantees. So if he's on this show with us right now, he's arguing back with you going, well, there's no guarantee if I hire KT and I make him the GM that we're going to win a Super Bowl. Look at all these other teams, because he started mentioning that in that interview with Sean Narje the other day.
What are we doing at all anymore, though?
Right, but I'm saying that's the way he looks at it. He looks at it as, oh, well, there's no guarantee that does it. You know, there was only one team that won the Super Bowl last year. 31 other teams didn't, so they're just as angry as I are. He doesn't get that. He thinks that it's the way he's doing is just as good as everyone else. We know that's flawed, but I'm just giving you his thinking. That's why he's never going to hire a GM.
Yeah, and real quick, just on that before I give it to you, KT. But like for me, I think it's also just look at any successful teams and like what when you think of Cowboys 90s, you think Jimmy and the triplets. When you think Patriots dynasty, you don't think Robert Kraft, even though he brought in Bill Belichick. You think Belichick and Brady. You think the Lakers in the late 90s, early 2000s. No one outside of the NBA sports fandom world knows who Dr. Jerry Buss is. It's all Phil Jackson and Kobe and Shaq. And so I think Jerry wants to be on that level to where I hear you like.
Well, if he didn't get the credit for the first 3 Super Bowls, what makes him think he's going to get the credit for this one?
Well,
because Jimmy gets the credit for the first 2.
Yeah,
Jerry gets the credit for holding it together for the third. It's not Jerry. I mean, maybe Jerry a little bit for getting Dion, but like when people go back and say who's responsible for those Super Bowls, they're going to say the triplets and Jimmy.
Yeah, but you're going back. You're going back, though. In that moment, I guarantee you that Jerry was getting a ton of credit. To take over that team in 89 and being as bad as the Cowboys were in the 80s, I guarantee Jerry got a lot of credit at that time. I was a kid. I don't remember it specifically, but I do remember him being on the sideline all the time. I knew who Jerry Jones was way more than I knew any other owner in sports. So we look back on it because we've been given the answers to the test. We see, 28 years? Yep. Jimmy Johnson was the reason you won the Super Bowl. But in the moment, Jerry was getting a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is also, Kent, to answer your question, it's like, for me, if I'm Jerry, like, what do you have to gain at this point? You already have Super Bowl rings. You're already the most valuable franchise in the world. You already even have your golden jacket. Like, what are you gaining by getting a Super Bowl that's not by your credit?
What I just told you, that he needs to prove that he can do it too.
No, but I'm saying
everyone
by
gives
hiring
Jimmy
a GM.
Right,
by
but
hiring
I'm saying,
a GM, what are you gaining? Nothing.
Right. So, but he believes that he knows he's not going to admit this, but he knows that we all give credit to Jimmy now because the track record has shown you. So he is constantly trying to prove I need to win one to show that I can get this done too. The problem with that logic is it's gone so far that even if he was to win one in this current structure, you can't sit there and just go like he did it his way. He was the man. He proved us wrong. No, he didn't. It took 30 some years. There's only 32 teams. It's the greatest league of parity. Law of averages would say, even if the fans are completely running this team, 1 year we might back into one. And when I say back into one, I'm talking about maybe just getting to an NFC championship game.
The year that might have happened was 2014 when he, or 2016 when he won Executive of the Year. They stuck with Dak, Coach of the Year, Garrett. Like that, if they had won the Super Bowl that year, that would have been Jerry's like exactly what Jerry had won.
Especially with Garrett as the head coach. Yes. No question, Kent. No question.
I'm going to try to say this in 30 seconds or less or so. I just want to speak real quick from a guy who I worked at the Fan for 6 years. We did not have the Jerry show, but we would fill in and get it sometimes. But I just know how things go over there. Never once or did any of the hosts be asked or told what to say. Okay. Specifically in an interview like that to Jerry. So I do get a little annoyed, and I apologize. I don't know you're part-time over there. When I hear other people, because people said it about us, you're in the pocket and all that stuff. Okay, but you're never asked or told specifically what to say to Jerry at that station. So the idea, we'll see what happens. Option one, the most likely Vegas money thing would be that he apologizes and it's all fine moving forward. The other thing is the idea that he could get them fired. That would be insane because he doesn't have the power to do that. Although, if local management did not stand up to him pulling some strings behind the scenes, if he really wanted them gone, if that's what that was, and I don't think it was, then I think they would stand by the morning show. I absolutely think that. I think they would say, no, that's okay. They pay to have the Cowboys on their network. Okay. The Cowboys do not pay. So when he also doubled down and said that about them, said they don't know football, said other people, and then he said that he pays them again, it made me seriously ask a question like, is this it? Is this the line where he said some wild stuff before, but it made me go, this is an area of delusion with Jerry that I don't really remember. And maybe he's just caught in the moment. Maybe he's having fun and playing with these chess pieces. But I went there for a minute because he's 82. And how could you not? Because what he's saying is false. You can't just say stuff and it be wrong. And I guess you can.
Yeah, you can.
But
you can.
But you can. And that's unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But what he said is not true. Like,
and it would be the worst PR move of his ownership of the Cowboys if he even tried to get somebody fired in that situation. He would look so bad on that. And that's a move that I'm not going to name the owners, but there's several owners. Well, no, I can name one for sure. That's a Daniel Snyder move.
Daniel Snyder, yeah.
And Jerry's not Jerry, yeah, exactly. And Jerry's not Daniel Snyder. And that's the thing about it is that Jerry is not that person that he was yesterday with them. And that's why I say it was disappointing that like he isn't like that to do something like that to push for someone to get fired because of questions they were asking. That's why to me it was disappointing because I'm just like, what are you doing? This is not you at all.
Oh, boys, what a fun time. Jeez.
What a time.
Never sleep. Okay, we got to get on out of here. So here's the thing. Follow Sod, follow John, get stuff up. You can go ahead and listen to the Scoop City podcast as well if you want to hear some of that Jerry stuff with Diana. So check all that out. Check out the Mad About Movies podcast too. I have a review of a special guest
KT
that you may know. Yeah,
talking SNL movie. Check that out. Yeah,
go see the SNL movie. We'll be back if we need to be. As you know, we're going to try to get out of town, experience a bye week, but give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell a friend, text 5 friends. To listen to the One Star Cowboys podcast. For John Machota, for Saad Youssef, for Kent Garrison, I'm Kevin Turner. We will talk to you next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast.
Do you understand bullshit?